Sorry?
Okay, everyone, Kula katoa. Welcome back. Reconvene the meeting. Welcome members of the public, and a big thank you from us for you coming and giving up your time to assist us. We do appreciate it. It does mean a lot to us to get this balance right, so thank you. As stated, Anne, you're first up, so welcome, Anne. Anne's on page 44 of the LTP booklet.
That's very bad, Joss. Chinese 4-4.
4-4, is that not a good number, or it is?
Ooh.
Oh, okay. Anne's on page 43 and a half. Welcome, Anne. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Your Worship, councillors. I have 3 points to make, and in addition to my written submission, and of course they're related. First point is about joining the dots. It was very helpful to see the points laid out one by one to focus the mind. But when it comes to implementation, it is important to see the big picture and also look for synergies. Sustainability is a mindset, and I think it should influence the actions. Joining the dots requires council to be proactive and not just focus on the regulatory role that you are required to do. And sustainability is also linked to affordable living. So the sustainable design encouraging developers to consider green solutions. And Your Worship, when you were at Lawrence last time and the question was asked, would council support rooftop rain tanks or whatever? And although it's not a requirement, but in the light of recent developments in Lawrence, which I will come to in a minute, it would have been helpful instead of really lugging, for example, water from rooftop, whatever. The second point is about heritage and tourism, and it is ranked highly in priority, and that is very important. And in relation to that, I want to talk about the Tuapeka Goldfields Museum. No, it's not Tuapeka, it's just Goldfields Museum in Lawrence. And it is critical that there is absolute funding for that museum and for the manager's position. I know one shouldn't focus on individuals, but in this case, we are jolly lucky to have the incumbent manager with her skills and passion. And the museum is not just a space where people come to look at past exhibits or exhibits of past events, but Jess organizes these activities. For example, last weekend was Century Farm, and there was that activity, what is it? From pastures to goldfields. So it's linking and telling the stories, and then people remember, and that is a very important part of promoting Lawrence. And these things require dedicated expert personnel to plan. As I said, one shouldn't focus on an individual, but in this case, I really have to sing the praises of Jess for bringing the museum. And it is right on the main street, and it is the front window for Lawrence. So please don't shortchange us. We need funding, and the benefits go beyond the museum and it goes to the community. My last point, the third dot, and is communications. Please, 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 communications has to be timely, and it is a two-way process, and it has to be proactive. Well, thank goodness news, we read that the pipe is now through. It reminded me of growing up in Hong Kong, where every summer we had severe water restriction, and there was only 4 hours of water supply every 4th day. So I had visions of us going back to that, and I thought, oh dear me. So, but the communications is also about providing information, and please be timely and not be reactive. We only found out about these things. It was terrible reading about it. There's only 4 to 6 weeks left of water supply. And every time you turn on the tap, you think, oh my God, is there going to be water coming out? So please, timely, proactive, and it's a two-way process, and being forewarned is forearmed. So please do it after the event. And you might say, what have all these points got to do with the LTP? It's about funding. It's about adequately resourcing. And these are, if you like, I think I've used this metaphor before. The infrastructure is the hardware, but getting the right people, the right skills, is the software to run the hardware. And one very last point to refer a particular point in my submission, and I've been mulling over it a lot, and it's about should community housing, should there be subsidy? And should it be subsidized from rates? And I've thought about it and I think, no, it shouldn't be. Because if you're proposing to subsidize a further rebate from returns from investment, it should also be the same. So there's consistency, and also it's one of these things which is not a requirement to do, so it shouldn't be coming from rates. And that's all. I'm happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Anne. Questions, please, team. Councillor Finch.
Thank you very much for your submission and welcome. You've got on option 1 about the community housing should be cost neutral to ratepayers, but then in the next question it's got should council subsidise rent from rates, and you've got yes.
Yeah, that was the point I said. I've made a mistake in that, and I've been mulling over it. It should be subsidised, but not from rates.
Right. Thank you. Clears that up. Thank you.
Further questions, team? And I want to ask you, and it's outside sort of where I'm heading, but you've worked in local government and knowing you, I know you think. We've got a challenge like never before around this table, specifically around the imbalance that's been created with the regulator Te Mataarawa's existence. And that's changed everything because we can no longer decide. The decision is do it or go to court and then do it. Mm. So I noted on your submission that you said any rate increase must be spread over the first 3 years. And we don't have that latitude because it's the consents that trigger the projects, that trigger the cost, and they come in, the flow goes. Over the next 10 years, the consents that trigger the costs, CapEx and OpEx, is 611 million, primarily divided between 6,947 urban ratepayers. I'm asking the entire district, like every council is asking the entire country, how do we do that? Mm. We know that it's an unrealistic figure, but I did note, and I know that you think deep, because I want to ask you that question. Maybe you get back to me on that. Remember those figures, 611 million, 6,947 urban rate units. Love to hear your feedback.
It's hard, and everybody is asking for more money, and yet you're trying to keep rates down. So it is about how else could you generate an income?
Council only has 2 levers, debt and rates. Yeah,
and there's a limit as to how far, how much in debt you can be.
But ponder on it and get back to me at some time. You could be the first person in New Zealand with an answer.
I'm not that clever. I like to think.
Councillors, further questioning? If not, thank you, Anne.
Thank you
for coming over and assisting us. Appreciate it. Who's next? We have got Beth. So, second time today, but this time we're in the hat of the Clutha Residents and Ratepayers Association. Welcome, Beth. And on page 74. Floor's yours, Beth.
Right. Good afternoon. The feedback from the ratepayers, especially those on a fixed income, is not very easy to listen to. They're highly stressed and upset about a 20% rate increase. They have to cut their own cloth from what limited income they have to make ends meet, and it's getting harder all the time. So they cannot see a way forward for them to pay the increase. It's impacting on them negatively and affecting their day-to-day lives. So I'd like you to really think long and hard about that aspect of a 20% rate increase. They see it as unaffordable and not an option. So a few suggestions. Reduce CDC running costs. It's what any household has to do. Reduce project costs by 10, 15 or 20%, which is going to provide the best outcome. Look long and hard on all the projects you've got on your books. To reduce the project quotes, then you must scrutinise and analyse every quote, as it is a well-known fact that if it's central and local government, the infrastructure industry double and treble quotes as they know it is guaranteed money. So, you know, you need to really, I believe anyway, or we all believe that you need to really be quite tough on quotes that you get and stick to them. Push out timelines if you need to make the money go round. Don't write the projects off the books necessarily, but extend the timeline. If you can't do them this year, maybe 2 years, maybe 5 years. Wait till you've got the books in better order. Make a plan regarding water and present to the water regulator. And with this is all we can afford. And then lobby central government to get the overbearing water standards reduced. They're over the top and not affordable for anybody. So I suggest that perhaps it's time for all the councils that are having the same issues to band together and lobby central government as a whole lot, as a block. You know, use what resources you've got at your fingertips. So I think you really, I don't want to sound really negative all the time, but follow the will of the ratepayers with these submissions. You could get the district back on track. So in summary, reduce costs internally, reduce project costs, be firm on fixed price contracts that are realistic and push out your timelines. Yeah, the ratepayers are very, very, very stressed and very concerned about the 20% proposed rate increase. I think it's unfair on the whole district. I'd rather see you set a target of 12% tops. I think it would be more realistic and affordable for people. That's all. Thank you.
Questions, councillors? So just a question. 20% rate increase. Are you aware that as a council we have to give the average rate, which includes the rural and the urban, and there's different dynamics? So the question is, are you aware that the different dynamics in the rural, where for a couple of years the rural water schemes dropped their depreciation and interest, and they're picking it back up. So the rural are hitting 20 plus, considerably 20 plus, whereas the urbans, if you look at after the flattening that we've done with the debt, the urbans are coming in at about an average of 14, 15% is the working. So please, the quote for the residents that you're referring to, the average urban rate around the district, 14, maybe 15%. Are you aware of that?
Well, it's not being made public, is it? Why is it not? Why is that not being known to everybody? Because it hasn't been. It came out there was 20% rate increase across the board. We
are shackled to the rigidity of what we have to do from central government on the amount. And also the another thing that you were saying was the 10 to 15% reduction if we put a tender out. You do know the structure, the rigidity and the legal requirements and the tender process where that's just not available. Well, maybe you've got to change the way you do things. It's up to you to take leadership with how the money's spent. That's the legal requirement. Sorry, so we've got to be legal, but I just as long as you know that how we're shackled into many of the issues. I see our CEO. All I'm hearing is excuses and excuses. Stop the excuses. Sit down, go through your long-term plan, line by line, figure by figure, and sort it out. That's what the LTP process is, but we shouldn't get into a discussion on it. So I'd just like to comment on your 20% rate increase for rural. So the very sector that pay the biggest amount of rates
and support the local economy the most, you're hammering the most. Does that seem fair?
No, this was, sorry, I should clarify that for you. This was a decision made by the Rural Water Schemes 2 years ago to not pay depreciation and interest. Now they have chosen themselves to pick it back up, and that triggered the rate increase for them. They were aware of it, and that's the way that the water schemes chose to go. But we shouldn't once again get into discussion. Questions, councillor? No further questions. Thank you, Ben. Bronwyn. Welcome, Bronwyn. So Bronwyn's LTP 14. I'm not sure whether to welcome you from sunny Wanaka or even sunny Akaka Point, but
Right,
welcome nevertheless. The floor is yours, Bronwyn.
okay. Good afternoon, councillors. I'm really interested in the environment, saving the environment thing, and I specifically wanted to talk about vehicles on beaches in the bylaw. There's an advisory note with that bylaw that talks about safe zones. So safe zones are vehicle prohibited areas, and these can be created with appropriate data and consultation. So since 1st of January 2023, we've had the bylaw activated. So since then, I'm sure you are, gathering data and consultations, because I know a lot of people have actually written in to the council, and I think Mike Goldsmith, he files these in a special file. So there should be quite a lot of them in there. What I want to bring to your notice is, since then, more or less straight away after you made the bylaw, DOT put out their research. It's a document like this that you can go online and get easily. It's available to everyone, and it's the land and marine areas used by female sea lions in the Catlins area in the winter. And it tells you some amazing stuff, like really the area from Campbell's Point right to Cannibal Bay is immensely used by the sea lions. They did the females, but you know it's the same. And the population, what is increasing, how they spend 48% of their time on the land, and 20% of it is within 20 metres of a road, because you've got nuggets and you've got other parts where it is. So then we look at, they look and we look at the amount of times vehicles interact with the sea lions, and that's because there's more of them and the amount of time they spend on the beaches. So I'll just give you some example. So they never go within the Arab sea lions don't actually feed a long way out. Like in other areas down at Stewart Island or in Campbell Islands, they go a long way to feed. But here, they specifically feed around the nuggets. So that's why all the tourists are getting great views of the sea lions on the beaches all the time. So it's important to know that, the Mataita itself is described to me from the Mataita Tiaki as a gift to us as people, and that we should not abuse that gift. And I know that they have submitted, during time too, that, it's not right what's happening. The amount of bird life, and I've, put forwards photos to you before of, like the 200 terns, the seagulls, the blue penguins come up at night, so no vehicles should be going at night running their dogs. It's just, anyway, so we'll talk about specifically the Mataita, but other areas have put in submissions to you too, like Papatawai, Cannibal Bay. Like, it's amazing how you can see vans of photographers go down to Cannibal Bay and they'll be filming all the males, doing their bit, like 9 males. I've got it on video too. And there's not only one group of vans of photographers that come down. It's just like, but to have a vehicle go by just ruins the whole thing. You've got to take an essence. And anyway, on the Mataita, we'll talk about the Mataita. So when the tide goes out, you've got 6 entry points or exit points, whatever you like to say. So there are people coming and going all the time out of these 6 different points. So it can be quite confronting when you're walking along the beach and these vehicles are going either side of you. Or you see all the tourists, they stop on the road, they don't go on the beach. And there's all the actions of the sea lions and they appreciate just filming them from, above. Well, we don't want cars going in and out and people running their dogs, in their cars. Anyway, well, that's the negative. The positive is that we could become leaders in the Catlins here and biodiversity by securing the top points without vehicles. And the other thing is, you've got to, the thing is, the fact the population of sea lions is increasing and the Clutha District Council might need to implement management actions to limit the risk of death or disturbance from vehicles on beach or road, because the road instances are coming on all the time. I suppose the sea lions are getting confused because we're going on the beach and now they're coming on the road. And so I've got pictures of, sea lions crossing the road all the time. It's confusing them as well, I think. That's my thoughts. So what I'm saying is, I hope that the amount of inquiries and things that are coming into you, that you're taking seriously. And if you ever want to see this is just a fantastic document. That's all I really have to say.
Thank you, Bronwyn. Love the passion. Questions, please, team. Councillor Volwell.
Thank you, Bronwyn. Do you have specific beaches, like you mentioned them in Taito, with specific beaches you'd like to see vehicle-free? I mean, we looked, I think there were 8 different beaches when we looked at the Bible, areas when we looked at the Bible. But perhaps it would be easier if we just, there was just perhaps some specific areas.
Well, I'm thinking Papadawai, they're very passionate there and they've only got a small beach. And they've had a lot of problems with the 4-wheelers and they've had police in there. And Cannibal Bay, that's a beautiful little beach, there's plenty of parking. People only need to go 2 steps and they're on the beach, it's not like that. And I know the Mataita, I'm very confused who was actually the leader of the Mataita, but I'll just go this way. After 6 years, I know that they want to keep it better than it is, put it that way. It started off that there was more problems than enough, but kind of like regional council helped with a few dead cows and things like that, and fisheries got the signs up, but now there's a new problem with vehicles on beaches. So I think if you, as a council, could approach the Mataita, whoever it may be, I deal with Mary Johnson, but apparently Mr. Kane is also in the mix. He's been said as being as well. So if you could, that would be a really big one to liaison with them and see their thoughts. Where the DOC have put, DOC are really in this as well, because obviously they've had some recommendations in here. DOC, they put a really good sign at Wilshire Bay, and people are loving that. I mean, it's a sea lion sign that they go up to it, they read it, they know what they're going to see, they know they put their dog on the lead, and they really adhere to it, So, there are small improvements around there that are going forward. And sometimes I think people now look at people on the beach and go, they judge them, if they've got their vehicle on the beach. So I don't know. It's really depending on how many people are coming into you saying,
Councillor Finch. Oh, sorry. Were you not finished, Councillor?
I'm finished.
You're right. Sorry. Yes, you were, Councillor Finch.
Thank you. In your submission, you've got about a bylaw for desexing and chipping of cats. You know that we don't have any control over cats. That is the SPCA.
right. Some councils do that, do jump in there.
Yeah, no, we do the dogs. And your document from DOC, what is the name of it, please?
This one, it's, well, I suppose if you look it up, it's, if you go onto the land and marine areas used by female New Zealand sea lions and things, I'll leave it here because I've got copies.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I'll just leave it
Thank you.
and you can have a look.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any further questions for Bronwyn, please? If not, thank you very much for that. Thank you. Cheers. Okay, next one's Alex. So, same booklet, page 99, Alex de Boer. Welcome, Alex.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm feeling a bit old. I shouldn't be doing this anymore. Yeah, I stand here today not because I think anything I'm going to say is going to change anything, which is rather sad, really, because I've got a lifetime of experience that can be brought to bear. But right from the outset of this document we received about the 10-year plan, the scene was set because, first of all, we were told almost in the first line that the stakes are high. Gee, that sounds scary to me. And the options are few. Which, yeah, that's if you've got a mindset that thinks like that. We've got the same tools on hand that we've always had. Well, how the hell can you expect a better result if you're going to keep doing the same thing you've always done? I mean, that's a business reality. Become business-like. The rates reality, you say. Dramatic increases in the future. Really? Well, I tell you, if you're going to keep going down this track, everybody's going to start reacting. And they're going to eventually react by having riots, by not paying their rates, by completely thinking that the people that are meant to be looking after us are no longer competent. Unravelling three waters, that was what was said. Three waters should never have happened. And those that believe it should have are living in some other territory. Centralisation around the world has proven over many, many generations to be unsuccessful. We decentralise today. You get control back into the local townships and they make the decisions, not a central government. I mean, central government is just an elected body of people sitting around a bench that are, trying to earn a living. And they'll do whatever they have to do to make sure they stay in power. So don't be enfeebled by them. That was the next statement. Council has been rendered enfeebled. What a bunch of, no, surely you're not like that. Within three waters, nothing is certain. Well, life isn't certain. I don't know why you have to make that statement. But these are all in the opening remarks of that document. The other big thing that came out for me was delay and an inevitable response from the regulator. Oh, yes. Well, I tell you, right now you've got a government in power that is wanting to listen to change. They want to make things sustainable and they want to make sure that we move forward in that direction. So you've got an ideal opportunity to actually offer a bit of opposition, get together with other citizens and actually say, we've had a guts full. We're not putting up with this. And just get out there and start behaving as if you are representing the community, not your own positions. And then we go on to say we've got 16 water schemes and 11 wastewater schemes. Well, is that something to be proud of? Is that something to emulate? To me, it just sounds like you're very, very confused. I mean, 16 water schemes. Christ, the water that we get, the water that is pure and clean, comes out of the sky. It doesn't have to be treated, doesn't have to come out of the water table. It doesn't lower water tables. You don't have to, there's no fertilizer in it. There's no cow shit in it. Just grab it before it bloody hits the ground, hits your roof, goes into a big tank in your house, and you've got fresh water. You don't need all these water pipes and water schemes and huge bloody pumps that pump it everywhere. You're really setting us up for failure, and it can't carry on. The document gives us some facts and figures. It's really a public relations document. I don't know who the hell wrote it, but if the CEO wrote that document, he should be fired because it is a PR document. It's not a document written by the CEO of a company or a group, and you guys are the directors of a company, basically. The mayor is the chairman and the CEO is the managing director. So please start behaving like that. It's a PR document and it says, let's talk. So what are we going to talk about? The document's full of the inevitable things that you think have to happen. You know, the fresh water, the wastewater, the waste. It's all about waste these days. But it's really just a document to say how we're going to pay for it. It's like the time I stood up here once before and talked about Ben Har when their ship system was failing. Just a couple of concrete tanks had cracks in it. We should have just fixed them. No, we put a whole new plant in there. The poor 30 people that lives in Ben Har had big rate increases. And I came to a meeting thinking we were talking about maybe another way of treating waste. And all I heard was, how are we going to pay for it? And if you don't use the sewer system, you're going to pay for it anyway, because we've got to make sure everybody pays, because otherwise the rest of the remaining people have to pay a lot more. So you even don't have a way out as an individual. You can't treat your own sewage. You can't get your own water. It's all got to come from, and if you do get your own water, you're going to pay for the water we could give you anyway. I mean, rural people get their own water. Why can't urban people do it? And then you talk about the use of debt. Well, debt is an extra bill. And the silly thing I read somewhere in that document said, debt, we go into debt now so future generations can pay their share. Christ, I've been in business all my life and I've never ever heard debt being talked about as future generations paying their share for the assets they're getting now. I mean, it's crazy. What bloody idiot even thinks like that?
Point of order.
Thank you. So, personal comments, refrain from.
Yeah, well, I'm wound up, so you've got to excuse a bit of that.
Well, I don't want to be called an idiot, thank you.
Okay, sorry. But it is a silly statement. So the use of debt adds an extra bill. It's easy to get into debt. Anyone will lend a council money. Why? It's not because they're going to take your assets securely, but you've got an ongoing stream of income that is forced out of public by regulation. Same as the government. They can borrow huge amounts of money because they've got the taxpayers paying the bill every year. So there's always money coming in. You can't go broke. It's an extra bill that's with you for a long time. So in the future, you're not going to even be paying just for the increases you have then or the huge amounts of things you've built up in terms of maintenance and servicing and pumps breaking down. You're going to have that debt bill on top of it. So you've doubled your bills. You don't get rid of your bills by going into debt. You add to them. I honestly believe that we need to sit down, rethink everything, apply a CPI rate increase for this year. Everybody's hurting. Everybody out there is struggling to pay their bills. And you sit around a room here and say that you're going to hit them with a 20% increase in their rates. It's just not feasible or realistic. What people would accept is if the rates went up by the rate of inflation with CPI. That's acceptable. And the rest of the things you do as a council is to do the projects on the basis of sustainability. So have a CPI increase, but start off, don't get all complicated by saying you've got governments that are going to regulate you and, get very scared about all that. Every council in New Zealand's in the same boat. The central government is not going to come down like a ton of bricks. Our systems here aren't that bad. And I don't think there's any reason why you should panic and get yourself into a situation of spending huge, you're talking about $500 million just on the Three Waters program over the next 10 years. That's a huge amount of money. And if you really do spend that, we'll spend more than our lives, our children's lives, trying to repay it. And by then it will have run out of steam anyway, and you have to review it all again. So the CPI increase, and have an internal review within council. I think it's high time council looked at themselves, and instead of empire building, they got stuck in and had a look at all the costs that they incur. Bloody cars running everywhere. People in jobs that hardly know what they're doing. I mean, I get these stories in the public domain. And some of them are true. There are people working here that really don't pull their weight.
Point of order, you're insinuating these people. No.
Okay, I'll stop that.
And
So.
swearing thing.
But you know what I mean. I think it is, we out in the public, we do feel that. And some of the spending you do, why not look at it as a public-private partnership? I mean, you see these going forward quite well. Toll roads, there's different ways. And if you put $500 million into something, and it vanishes, it's gone forever. But if you put $500,000 and form a business and make that $500,000 your shareholding in the business, then that business can earn income from then into any distance in the future. And slowly you build the council up, or you build your business up to a point where you're actually creating income from investments. You've got some investments already, which I see you don't want to touch. You'd rather hit the public with an increase. And Three Waters, I mean, the worst thing with water in my mind is you're not utilising rainwater. So for goodness sake, let's make that step number one. How do we put a 20,000 litre tank in every house, run the stormwater into it? Then they don't put their stormwater pipe down the sewer pipe like they do now. So you're going to get that water and they're going to supply their own water. And if they run out, they get the water truck in and put some more in there. Maybe they put two 20,000 litre tanks in if they use a lot of water. It's up to them. Stormwater, we're into global warming. Stormwater is going to be more of an issue. But you don't put stormwater from big floods down a pipe. Because the first thing that happens, the minute you want to use that pipe, it's blocked with leaves or branches or whatever, and it's just a waste of time. Then you've got to maintain it. Then you've got to open the ground up and clean it out. For massive stormwater, you need an open system, where the water flows down an open channel to a low area. And you don't build houses on those low areas. They're floodplains, and you leave them alone. Wastewater, this word waste, it really gets to me. Everything's a waste. It's a raw material. And nature has provided that we should recycle that and put it back into use again. Nothing is a waste. What is waste to one person is an asset to another. And don't mix it all up into a little bucket where someone else has got to separate it out. I mean, just have systems, and I can't answer all the questions in 5 minutes, but let's have a system where in our widespread community, we put copper in one pile locally, both local people, steel in one pile, aluminium in another pile, timber and all that sort of stuff, and concrete in separate piles. And then every now and again, a contractor who uses that material as part of his business comes around and collects it, and he has a free raw material. Real simple, and it costs you nothing. You don't have to run around with trucks. You don't have to have big waste disposal areas. You don't have resource consents to aid for. And solid waste, that's the real one for me. I mean, that is organic matter that should be put back into the ground. And look, if people wanted me to do it in a whacker, I would collect everybody's shit and I'd compost it and reuse it. So let me do that and let me prove it to you that you can do it. There's no problem with it. There's no ill health with it. In your body, things only get to 39 degrees centigrade. In a composting pile, they get to 55 degrees centigrade. So all those organisms are dead. There's no problem with composting human waste. I mean, dairy farmers stand in shit all day. And you're right. We're doing it. So why is human shit such a big problem? Community services like the town hall, that's turning into a bright one now too. It's a nice looking building, but whoever designed the inside of it, I'm just not sure. It's a white elephant, I think. I mean, I went in there the other day. There were two ladies sitting there doing the eyesight. Not a person inside except my daughter. I had to go and collect her from a meeting with about 3 people. One big open space, little box with a whacker on. I'm not sure what a whacker does in that little box, but there's no windows. There are phone boxes in there that you stand in, I believe, and you can make an insulated phone call so nobody can hear you. Somebody has designed all that with some futuristic sort of planning in mind, but that's not very usable. So that town hall, I think if you're going to replace your library, maybe consider putting the library in the town hall as well. And maybe even consider putting the museum in that town hall in a different way to a traditional museum, because young people today see things differently. They see a library differently to what we did. They see a museum differently to what we used to. So let them have a say maybe in how that town hall can be used. But let's get rid of these museums and all these libraries and let's put them all in the town hall so we can share them centrally, including letting our tourists have a look inside, because they'll go to the town hall because they're going to the eye centre. And insurance is another one that's going to increase in the years to come hugely. Insurance costs are going to go through the roof because of climate change, this big word. And if you've got a climate change department in this organisation, please get rid of it, because climate change is for everybody. There's no department called climate change. Can't be. You just look at every decision you make and everything you do and say, how are we going to be affected by climate change, and act accordingly. It's not a department. It's something in your mind that you just got to keep your eye on. So insurance, maybe you should self-insure. You know, it is quite a possibility. Buy gold. In this inflationary environment, gold will keep going up in value. And that could become a real asset that you could draw on if you need to, instead of paying some other bloody company huge insurance
Turn
bills.
again.
Yeah, so we should be looking at wrapping.
Okay, right, I will do that. So, yeah, so I think I've probably covered most of it. I've probably outlasted my welcome, but, you know, I'm not standing here trying to be negative or nasty or naughty. I'm trying to put some thoughts into your mind that actually makes you sit up and think about it. The status quo is not acceptable and not sustainable and will eventually fail badly. And in the meantime, you're burdening your local people. No one wants to build a house in Balclutha if they're going to be hit with $5,000 rates. You know, it just isn't sustainable. And the other thing I'd say is resource consents, really trim up on those. The government's going to help you with that. And building consents, please make it simple. And if people want to start a business, say to them, what can we do to help you? Not what can we do to hinder you. At your face, they say very nice things. Then they get back to their office and they start looking through the legal stuff. And suddenly you start getting all these letters about, oh, do you realise you've got to do this and that and everything else. And by the time you've gone through it, all 6 months have gone by. And you've got a very simple project that still isn't
We
finished.
should more than be closing it down.
Right, thank you.
So questions for Alex, please. Councillor Finch.
Thank you. So you were saying about all the houses should have at least 20,000 litre tanks. Can I
Yes.
ask how many you have and what size they are?
Have I got my property? Well, I've got two properties. One, I've got a 3,000 litre tank under the house, which has been there forever.
Not 20,000.
No, well, I've got another one on the roof as well. But yeah, but I've got town water at this stage. If I didn't have town water, I'd put a 20,000 litre tank in. But on my other property, we've got three 20,000 litre tanks.
And you said about the rural community doing their own water or something. You realise there are rural water schemes all around.
Not very many. But if there are, they should probably be stopped because really farmers collect their own water.
No, they don't.
So Councillor Payne, Herbert, McAtamney.
Well, thank you, Your Worship. I've got a couple of questions, and I'll start with the water tank and just elaborate a wee bit on that. So you've said about the cost of rates and everything for water, but you're quite prepared to give the ratepayer or impose a 20 litre tank on them with filtration systems and everything to meet standards. And
No, I'm not
at a
saying
cost
that.
of-
Well, you don't have to filtrate rainwater. But yeah, if you want to have a filter inside your house under your tap, under your sink, that's up to you. But when the rainwater, I've lived with rainwater all my life and I'm still healthy and still kicking. At the end of the day, you probably need a little pump. They're about $300. The people pay for it, but the council, through their buying power, could make the buying power available to everybody. The tanks aren't that expensive, and yes, they should pay for them. But it's a one-off cost. At the moment, you've got endless bloody costs going on, time after time. And if it's water they can collect, and you can't go around and tell them they've got to turn their hose tap off because they can't water their garden because it's a drought. Well, that's up to them then, the decision to do that.
Thank you. So I'm aware of the cost, because I have to have my own 20 to 30 litre, 1,000 litre tank under the ground at home.
Yeah.
So that's fine, and filtration goes. But secondly, if I can just ask the second question, do you know how Tacoma is trading and what their end goals are for this district?
Sorry, who, what?
Tacoma, the Clutha Community Hall and Memorial.
Do I know what the costs are?
No, do you know what they're trading, how they're trading at the moment?
Oh, it was a brand new thing.
No, we've made some broad statements, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I looked inside it. I looked inside as a practical person. I went in there and I looked at what was in there. You know, you've got the eye centre over in one corner. You've got open plan for meetings, and you've got what do they call themselves? The community investment people in the other side. But it's a big
trading.
Yeah, well, I don't know how well they're doing financially. I did go there for a movie. It was quite a nice movie theatre.
Thank you.
Councillor Herbert.
Thank you. My question carries on from Councillor Finch. So did you know that we are the largest reticulator of rural water in New Zealand? The 75 mixed-use rural water schemes in New Zealand,
Yeah.
we have 11 of them.
Yeah. I
That
know.
was born out of the fact that, you know, these farms need continuity of water through the summer. So did you realise just actually how broad and how big we are? Because you made the statement, the rural people look after themselves. The fact is, we are the largest reticulator of water in New Zealand. Did you realise that?
Well, I know it's a big area and I know there's a lot of kilometres to cover, and that's why what we're doing is unsustainable. But I did own a farm in Balclutha for a long time, by the way, in Warwick South. and I've had my own water, and I got it off the roof of my sheds. But yeah, I mean, if a farmer needs water brought to him, he might have to pay for it or rethink how he does it. He could put a water bore down if he wants to. He's got a lot of sheds normally with roofs on them. I mean, I don't understand even in Auckland with all these millions of houses why they don't collect roof water.
Yeah, so it's Councillor McAtee.
Yep, I'll just carry on from councillor here, but those rural water schemes, 11 as mentioned, I'm just wondering, I know my forebears part of setting up the original Balmoral scheme. Our farm, we've got no bores whatsoever on that farm. They tried in the 50s and 60s. We haven't even got a running creek in the summer. We've got quite a productive farm, all fed from rural water schemes. I'm at a loss as to how we could service that with rain.
Look, if you're in any situation in life, if you can't do anything different, you do what's possible. You can't do what's impossible. So if you need a water scheme because you've got a farm that's got no water on it, Central Otago is probably in that category, then you do something different. But you don't taint the whole community with it. You don't make everybody pay for that. You made those farms would pay for that.
Those decisions were made in the 60s. And
Well,
70s.
that doesn't matter, but we're living in today's world.
Well, why would
Point of order, we're starting to debate here.
So have we got any further questions, please, team? If not, thank you for that, Alex.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Next one. It's Mark Taylor. Welcome, Mark. So Mark's on page 361.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
First time I've been here, so you're a bit nervous, so we'll see how
You're
we go.
amongst friends, Mark.
Thank you very much. Righto, here we go. Hi, my name is Mark Taylor. I've lived in mighty South Otago most of my life. Excuse my voice, I'm a bit nervous. Right, my verbal input today is in regards to the Clutha District Council Long-Term Plan 2024-2034 consultation document. I'm speaking about my personal submission. Okay, a focus on overspending and blowouts of budgets must be stopped, or massive implications will be felt for generations of ratepayers and residents of the Clutha District. The existing culture of lending money to buffer the project blowouts of recent times must not be tolerated anymore. A quote after the Centennial Pool court case was that systems are in place to prevent this from happening again. This is not apparent as in the recent debacle of the destination toilets, and the Milton cabins is evidence of this. The present financial climate, the cost of living, and the income reductions in some major primary industries within the Clutha District should be considered and extravagant projects parked immediately. Obviously, we must align to the water regulator, as this group that dropped out of the Havelock North Inquiry Group and other entities seem to be hell-bent on influencing standards driven from offshore buy-ins from the previous governments. This expense looks like it has to be the priority for the first period of our long-term plan. Therefore, the other areas of the plan must be considered to be a lot less important. Yet, the long-term plan seems to ignore this fact. Forecasting spending of borrowed money to pander to less important projects must be deferred. Some of the examples are the Milton Pool Community Cultural Library area or project. This should be deferred or partially staged over a longer period so that the ratepayer can afford this. Another area that I thought was a wee bit extravagant was the Kaka Point toilet replacement concept. I haven't got a problem with the refurbishment with a budget of 500k, and also part of that, I suppose, concept, I believe, should be the Cora Creek toilet facility. Perhaps that should be developed a bit more for families in that area over the peak summer period, because a lot of people use that area, and I imagine with a group of young kids could become quite challenging. Right, back to water. Obviously, the focus of their major spend in the next 10 years is going to be very challenging. Treated water, 16 million. Wastewater, 159 million. That's a lot of money. I ask, why are our plants all of a sudden so non-compliant? Seems as though a tactic from previous government was to scare us into a panic attack, and we've reacted with disregard for what we have. Our water is not that bad, I believe. Wastewater, once again, $149 million. Wow. Ways to mitigate perhaps are to ask others who discharge into our district systems to pay their way. Ratepayers should not foot this bill. Also, I'm interested in why all our wastewater resource consents are due to expire. Surely they're not altogether, maybe a bad strategy that was set up in the past, I'm not sure. Also, stormwater, once again, $28 million. I believe there must be a better way. I suggest utilising rainwater from large buildings that we have a lot of in certain areas of the district to be used. There's a five-fold gain here, perhaps even more. Non-potable water can be used within the buildings or for neighbouring properties. Firefighting is another example. We can utilise that water. Also can be used in civil emergencies, drought mitigation, or certainly to lighten the load on existing treated water systems that are struggling. Okay, summary. Status quo is not sustainable. The ongoing refusal to change culture and bad habits is embarrassing to us all. This habit of propping up budget blowouts with excuses has to be stopped. Accountability must be transparent to all. Finally, the ratepayer will suffer significant hardship if this plan is not in its existing form is rolled out. I ask for it to be modified to focus on reduction of debt loading. The must-dos rather than the want-to-dos need to be focused on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Questions, Tony? No questions? I've got to ask a question, Mark. Because it was said that, by you know, we don't want rates. There's no one around here wants the rate increases that we're doing. There's no one around here that we want the debt increase like we do. They are the only two levers we have. So I put it to you, look,
I believe there's three. We need to change our mindsets and come up with solutions rather than just sticking to two little tunnel vision things. I believe that's the secret.
So if I could ask my question, and
Yes,
I'll frame it in the fact that we would love to have more options than that, but with the creation of Mataara and the new water standards, and also the fact that the evolution of the sewage plants and the water plants that came about from the night cart to the 1970s to the next evolution now. So we've got a perfect storm. The reality that we face is that over the next 10 years, as I keep saying, CapEx and OpEx for three waters is 611 million to primarily be divided between 6,947 urban rateable units. We can keep saying things that just happen to forget that there's laws of the land that must be obeyed. There's things that we can say that don't acknowledge the fact that we've already got entrenched systems in place and compliance to meet. The reality that this table's sitting at, the dichotomy that we have to go through is not by our choice. We do not want it. 611 million divided by 6,947. I ask, how do we do it?
Well, the Bullet District seems to manage a lot better than us.
No, actually, not that I want to go one-on-one, but the West Coast in its entirety is acknowledged by all that that's the area of New Zealand that's the most worst off. We're sort of equal second, but we can take some limited.
Sure about that, Brian?
Absolutely sure.
I think it's the
So,
statistics.
but back to our one, it's right across New Zealand, so, you know, it's not just us, but the particular task that we're entrusted with is 611 million, just for three waters. Go to court and do it, or do it.
That's fine, the regulator will dictate, sure, but surely we can change things.
That was a question, how do we do it?
We can change things like the joke is dropping off stock sewage into our dump ponds on the side of the road. Who treats that? We've got to treat the ratepayer. Do they pay their way? They do.
Meter charge.
Well, why is it that we're footed with the astronomical, the huge increase in the future? Are they paying in the future too? How are they paying?
Same rate as us. Anyhow, look, if there's no further questions, thank you, Mark. I think if nothing else, we appreciate yours and I hope you appreciate the situation we find ourselves
I
in.
do.
We're
and
no
I think we
one
can
of
do
our own.
better. Thank you.
Okay, we've got Gloria at 385. Welcome, Gloria, all the way from West Otago. John will be pleased to see someone from West Otago here. He's been feeling lonely today. I am Michelle. So Team Gloria's on page 385.
Thank you, Your Worship. And thank you, councillors, and Steve and Jules for letting me speak today. Firstly, I'd like to congratulate you on being able to stay focused for so long. As a teacher of high school students in the past, I know how hard that is, but I'll refrain from making you stand up and do star jumps or something. I do think it's a mission that you're on. I appreciate what you're doing. I'm Gloria McCutcheon and I'm speaking on behalf of the West Otago Vintage Club. You've read our submissions concerning our need for funding to display our valuable machinery in a more accessible way, more beneficial for tourism in Central Otago and Clutha District, sorry. But I just want to emphasise the value of our collection and how priceless the whole Museum of Machinery is to the history of agriculture, not only West Otago, not even just the whole Clutha District, but to New Zealand in general. We've got unique machines like our Renault Crawler. It's the only one of two in the whole world. And our Victoria motorcycle was built by a Glasgow bicycle firm, and it's so rare that we can't find any information on it. It's so old. The Glasgow, a rare tricycle tractor, and Stella, our steam engine that we've just reconstructed and had an overhaul. I think she's better known in the district than the volunteers are. Then, of course, there are many collections of invaluable articles in the domestic side, the likes of which we've never found anywhere else, but that's a whole different story. The rich tapestry that's been woven and the success of farming in the south is founded on machines such as we have restored and even brought back to working conditions in many cases. This history is too precious to be shoved into crowded spaces. If it could be displayed openly, spaciously, three-dimensionally, only then would this valuable information get the national recognition that it deserves. Then and only then can our volunteers get stuck into developing the many brilliant ideas they have, such as working projects to get the youngsters involved, including helping to restore engines and reconstructing a water wheel that we have that used to drive the largest traction engine workshop of its time in New Zealand. So ladies and gentlemen, I won't keep you any longer, but the future success of or failure of this very rare and important collection of historical machines hinges on money. And I'll let you take it from there. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gloria. Questions, please, for Gloria. Councillor Finn.
Thank you and welcome. Thank you for your submission. Can you tell me what hours and days you are open, please?
At the moment, because of limited availability of people, volunteers, we're open for 2 hours every Sunday. We would dearly like it to be a lot more.
So before your lack of volunteers, how often was it open?
It was open Saturdays and Sundays, weekends, but it's accessible at any time. There are phone numbers on the door. Anyone who turns up to it can just ring someone and they'll be there in a flash to open it for them.
So do you charge an admission price?
Yeah, $10 to admit adults, children, any school children are free.
Thank you.
Further questions, team? John.
Thank you, Gloria. Thanks for coming along. Can you just please remind us the cost of the total project and then sort of how you're getting on with other funding avenues and where the project's at kind of physically, please?
Okay. Well, the amount where we aimed at is 750,000. Seems to be going up daily. And of course, we have to get a third of that before we can apply for our heritage grant from lotteries, which will cover 2/3 of it, but we have to make that third. So we've got to get up to roughly 260,000. We've got 42,000 in the bank, and we have got a scheme in place where we are asking for subsidies for poles for the new shed at 10,000 a pop, and we have written pledges for, I think 8 of those at the moment. So we're well on the way to our 260 at the moment. With your help.
The project itself, you own the land,
We
you've got,
own
you've
the
got
land.
design plans.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah, and
Yes,
so,
we-
so the project, it is progressing in a
Yes.
physical sense, yeah.
Yes, yes, well, we've already paid, of course, for consents and engineering tests and whatever. So, but we can't actually start building until we've got more money to pay the bills.
Councillor Waiwela.
Thanks, Gloria. Just, how much did you say, well, you said you need a third for you to fight a lotteries. How much are you hoping for lotteries?
Well, we're going to be applying for 520,000, I think, from lotteries.
So two-thirds.
Yep.
Any further questions, team? Councillor Fudge.
Thank you. So have you already been in talks with Lottery pre this?
Yes,
And what was their thoughts?
they were very positive, but at that stage we didn't have anywhere near the third that we needed. So, you know, in fact, they even went to the point of saying, well, if you can have written pledges rather than the actual money in the bank, they would look at that seriously. So they're looking on it favourably.
At the 520?
Yes.
Thank you.
Any further questions, team? Thank you very much, Gloria. Appreciate you coming over to help us.
Thank you.
Cheers. Now, team, we're changing blocks and heading to Peter. Peter from the Combined Museums Group on page 112. Welcome, Peter. How are you? Roz, so you're right, yeah, you go with this and then I'll call you. Yeah, but you're still for the other one, aren't you? Yep.
Yes, good afternoon to you all. Now, any questions you either ask Roz, our treasurer, Noeline Milne isn't here today, our secretary, but we've got Liddy over the back there. She probably knows more than the rest of us, so we'll probably rely on you, Liddy. I'd just like to say that it wasn't in the submissions that the 6 combined museums have got a very elderly workforce. And as I said in my time, in the mid-70s, that when you were younger, the future was there. And when you get to my age, the future is there. And that's the reason that then, because you are that much older, you're looking at the past because it is still a large piece of what you've gone through in life. And that's why we do have these committees, which are my age and not much different and not much younger than us. We're 1 or 2 younger members, but not as many as we really should have to administer our museums. And with the funding we get through the district, certainly helps us keep our museums open. So I'd like you just to keep that thought in mind. So I'll ask Roz, our treasurer, she will be able to elaborate a bit more on our museums, the combined museums. Roz.
I wasn't expecting to be able to do this, but yes, certainly just to reiterate what Peter has said, without the funding that we get from the council for the combined museums, some of those museums would be closed permanently. It enables us to pay for our rates, insurance and power, and none of us really have possibly the exception of Awaka, but none of us have the income to sustain those basic running costs. So we really just want to reiterate that we really do appreciate and need the money. You will note in our submission that we're not asking for any more money, which is a good thing. We're managing to operate within the funding that you already give us. And so, yes, we would really appreciate that to continue.
Questions for the team, please, councillors. Councillor Finch.
Thank you. Some of the other museums have applied for funding for managers, and that's not coming out of your combined group's money.
No.
What are the thoughts on that from your end, please?
Well, those positions are unique to each museum. I know that Lawrence has put in for funding, and we have ourselves as well at Balclutha. The other museums, apart from Owaka, are all run on volunteers and are open a lot less hours. As you know, with Tapanui, they're only open on Sundays. Kaitangata is only open on Sundays, I think, for a few hours and open on request. Milton is open on a daily basis except Sundays, I understand. So, but they don't have they have 3 or 4 people who are trained, and I'll speak to that when we do my submission. But yeah, they have a group of people that their committee actually runs it very, very well. So each museum has its individual way of functioning. Yeah. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you very much.
Further questions, further, Councillor Mulwelly.
Thank you. Thanks, Ross. Thanks, Pam. Just looking at the submission you put in, you said there's we're doing a group review, and that there's the need to produce a work program and timeline plan for 1, 5 and 10 years. Just how is that going?
For the combined
It's
museums,
in the combined museums.
for the work, it's a work in progress. Yeah, we discuss that at our committee meetings. We meet 3 monthly, so we do have there are with excess funds and things like that we are working through, and those work programs involve things like maintenance of the museums and display improvements, all those sorts of things. Yeah.
Councillor Payne.
Thank you, Your Worship, and welcome, Peter and Roz. It's great to have you here. Look, you touched right at the start. You touched on succession, and so I'm going to go straight to the youth engagement thing and say, well, how do we make this a sexy product, if you like, if I can say it like that, for young people? And well, I know the question is, I guess the question is, how do we get the young people in there? And I was heavily involved with the Walk Back in Time. Oh, who won that, by the way? Brian will remember. But no, how do we get the young people in the door? You know, have you put some time into that? Or?
I just think that this is, life experiences that I've seen, that I wasn't interested in anything up until I was about 45 in the future. But when your past is that much behind you, you feel, well, you need to preserve these things that you've had in the past. And I think it's just it's a revolution of life.
I think it's also attracting young people. We had a Gateway student last year. So she came and worked with us, did some work in the museum. So I think it's getting interested students who are already interested in history, who may go on and do university degrees in history and then come back to their town to do those. But we need to offer them a good salary to get them here. Again, it comes down to money. I might be quite happy working on the hourly rate that I'm doing, but certainly that probably wouldn't be sustainable in terms of people having to support a family.
Was that a question, Councillor Catherwood? Any further questions, Tim? If not, first of all, thank you, Peter, and Roz, you're going nowhere. You could stay and help her, Peter, if you want. No, I thank you for it. So
Sorry,
Roz's submission is 304. Welcome, Roz. Sorry, floor is yours.
Good go.
Oh, sorry, the floor is yours.
All right, thank you. Your Worship and councillors, you've then introduced me to already, but I am currently the curator at the Clutha Museum and Vice President of the South Otago Historical Society. Our President, Dave Inder, as you saw in your submission, puts in an apology as he is overseas at the moment. However, did include a letter of support, which you will have seen. I want to start by asking you a rhetorical question. What do you think will happen to the museum and its collection if a curator wasn't there? I know that no one is indispensable, but when I literally fell into the position as curator after Gary left, nobody was doing anything other than keeping the museum open. We had volunteers who were very willing and putting in a lot of work, but they had no idea as to how to curate a collection or manage the items that were being donated, so nothing was happening with them. I'm still working on the backlog from that time. One of the reasons for the collection audit in 2017 was to identify items for deaccession, which was done but not completed. None of the volunteers at that time had the skills to manage this. I had a degree in anthropology and a strong interest in history and experience in business and project management, but I was operating purely on instinct at that stage, realising very quickly how much I did not know as regard to museum practice. To that end, I personally paid for a study course in museum practice, and after a couple of years of part-time study was awarded the New Zealand certificate. As well, Mike McPhee at Owaka and Jess Weisler at Lawrence also achieved this certificate, and since then, 3 people from the Tokomariro Museum have completed it with support from myself and Jess. We now have a core of knowledgeable people within the district to curate our various collections, to preserve Clutha's heritage, and continue to support our museum volunteers. In recognition of my work, which in the beginning was all voluntary, the South Otago Historical Society believed I should be paid for my work, hence the first application for 12 hours a week funding from the council. This funding has continued to the present, for which we are very grateful. This year we are asking for an increased hours to 24 hours a week. The reason for this is that we were fortunate in getting a COVID Museums Hardship Grant last year, which funded a further 12 hours a week for 6 months, and we realised that we could get a lot more achieved working 24 hours a week than the 12. And we've also asked for funding for a museum assistant. Councillor Payne asked how we attract young people to the museum. Well, we have a younger person. She does have a grown-up family, but she's a few years younger than I am, who's interested. She's already has been coming in on a voluntary basis to assist with the catalogue and computer work. One of the issues that the museums have is because so many of our volunteers are in the older age range, they're scared of computers and they're scared of computer work. They can look up Google and they can send emails and that, but to do anything like entering things into a database, even though it's pretty simple, they'll say, oh, can't do this, too scared, we might hit the wrong button and lose everything. So we have that as well. So the assistant that we've got is able to manage all of those. But all the details are in our submission. But suffice to say, with our museum assistant, I'm trying to encourage her to do the certificate of museum practice, which will be a plan and succession in place for when I eventually retire or die. We ask that you award the 24 hours a week funding as well as the museum assistant funding requested in our submission. But please, at the very least, continue to fund the 12 hours a week so that the mahi of curating the collection can continue. The museum does not have enough income to sustain a curator wage, which would be the ultimate goal, and one that may very well be achieved once and if we get a new museum. So thank you for your consideration. That concludes my verbal submission.
Thank you, Roz. Questions, please, councillors. Councillor Finn.
Thank you. Have you noticed any uptake in your visitor numbers, because your average is 2.3 people per day when you're open? Has that lifted any in the last wee while?
No. This last 7 days we had 1 visitor in. Although when I popped in this morning, Liz told me we got 4 in this morning, so that was all right, but certainly up to this morning in the last 7 days we had 1.
Do you know why that is? Have you done any research on it?
We have done. Partly it is probably due to the season. I mean, we obviously get more visitors in during the tourist season, during the summer when there are a lot more tourists around. We have, I guess it's to do with accessibility. The collection, a lot of the displays in the collection haven't been changed in the last 30 years. So we're working on a program to update those collections and to get people into the museum and try and encourage people. We also haven't really had the funding or the money to spend a lot on advertising and marketing.
Thank you for that.
Councillor Herman.
Thank you. Could you remind us what the admission fee is, please?
We are admission by donation, so we ask for a $2 donation. We have had the discussion about charging an admission fee, but we've actually found that people will often, and I know it's not much, but people will often put in a $5 note rather than $2 per person. We also get donations when we do research for people as well, and they will donate what they consider their research is worth. So we charge a research fee of $25 per hour, but often will pay a whole lot more than that if we've done extensive research, particularly for family history research. And that is an area that we want to expand. At the moment, we are developing a new research room and library to encourage people to come in and do that research, because that's where a lot of the money is.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further questions, team?
Worship, just a suggestion. Just if like the worst comes to the worst and the society and the museum had to wind up, is there any responsibility of council?
And well, in terms of the council doesn't own the museum. The Historical Society owns and runs the museum. It's not a council owned or operated facility. So in terms of that, there's probably no legal responsibility, but I actually believe that the council have a moral responsibility to protect the Clutha heritage and to do something to protect the heritage that we've got within the museum.
Further questions, team? If not, thank you for there's your word, Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Your Worship. Ros, I just got a question for you, and it's probably quite a sticky question, but how do you think the other museums feel when the ratepayers are gifting $138,000 to the Otago Museum, and yet we're struggling to look after our own museums in the Clutha district? As a museum curator, how does that feel? Is it a hard pill to
It
swallow?
would be wonderful if we could have that $100,000+ into our local museums in the district. But having said that, we do get support from Otago Museum in terms of it's supposed to be, doesn't sound much for $100 and something thousand, but we're supposed to get 40 hours a year support per museum from Otago Museum, and that could be things like advice. If we have items in the collection that need special treatment, special conservation treatment, those sorts of items, they will do that for us. So yeah, we do have that support function, but yes.
Yes, I can appreciate, you're one of many of the museums in the district that need help, so. I just wonder where it's at with you personally.
Personally, I probably don't think they should get as much as that, but I certainly think they should get something for the support that they provide us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Councillor Finch.
Thank you. When you have issues and not just your museum, they are available, are they, for you to ring and ask questions as well, not just come out and spend the time with you? Are they there on the end of the phone?
Oh, is that Otago Museum?
Yes, sorry.
Yes, they are.
Thank you.
This time, team, any further questions? If not, Ross, thank you very much for coming and assisting us. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Can I, if something comes early, can I bring
You can, Your Worship. I was going to be suggesting that perhaps we just schedule to come forward anyway, because sometimes they come in.
So what say we, let's see how we were going to come back at 3:30. What say we hold and hover at 3 o'clock, and if there is anyone out there, we'll take them.
Yeah.
Just to keep moving it along.
Yep.
Because we're going to be sitting here anyway, so go and freshen up and what have you, but if we can be at least ready to come back, I'll come and give you a bit of a holler if there's a few out there. Back, welcome to the submitters. Great to have you here and really appreciate the assistance that you're giving us. And so we're out of order, but I know the sequence that we're going in. So our first one is, and it's in the comms book, is the Catlins Historic Society with Ledman Ibbotson. Welcome, Libby. Do you need a hand up with Sharon? She holds awesome power and authority around here, Libby. We're coming up here. So it's the Green Book. Catlins Historic, that's the Green Book one. Welcome, Libby.
Thank you,
Look forward to your
Brian.
presentation.
And pleased to be here. My name's Ledman Ibbotson, for those that don't know who I am. I'm the president of the Catlins Historical Society. Just to give you a brief history of our involvement with the council, we started on a joint venture with Information Services combined with the museum in 2007, when we purchased and added on to a building in Awaka, which was the ex-forestry headquarters. We raised funds of about 900,000 to bring it up to the standard that we were happy with, and moved on. When we started, the council were involved on the Information Services, and at that time, they only had the one staff member Monday to Friday, and our museum did volunteer Information Services Saturdays, Sundays, public holidays. That's how our association started, and that's how we're in the position here today of just telling you where we're at, and we just wish to carry on with the same sort of venture. Things have changed somewhat over that time. In about 2019, just before COVID came along, we were going pretty good. There was a lot of people coming in the doors, and the council in their wisdom was decided that perhaps 2 staff members and 1 on weekends might be required. So that was a council decision to do so. That's happened virtually ever since. We supply an assistant on weekends. We double up on Saturdays and Sundays, so the staff member has an hour for lunch. It's a system that's worked very well for both parties, I would say. When your member might be away, we cover that. Our manager, Michael, do the lunch here. So it works very good, and we're pretty happy with how it's going. We just want to see that continue if we can. We meet with we have a meeting with the council. We have our executive meeting, about 4 members come and meet with the staff member, Debbie Duncan, and used to be John Scott here, and just discuss things and make sure we're all happy and move on. So all we're just the reimbursement that we've been receiving for providing that service is all we're just asking for that, if that can continue. But it's just to give you a brief idea of just numbers. Then the year ended 31st of March, there was 4,593 people went through the museum itself. But in the year ended 31st of December 23, which is the last figures I have, there was 19,519 people actually came into the service, into the information centre for information or questions or whatever. Having the library's help, we've got a few ideas that we're looking further ahead. You might recall this year on the 1st of January, we had a Surat Day, which was very well supported by everybody. We had people from overseas come to it. We've got a Lockerbie collection now that you mightn't be aware of what the Lockerbie collection is, but it was a lot of stuff dug up from mower hunters around, mainly Punaware, Papatawai is what we've got. It's one of the, probably be one of the best in this country for things of that era, mower hunters, etc. That'll be open later this year. We're just having a bit of a I wouldn't say a problem, just getting everything finished before we go ahead and open it. We've resurrected, if you recall, there was a monument at the Katia corner with a soldier on top that got stored in someone's garage for some time. Excuse me. Someone of the member of the public thought it should be done up a bit, so we've since done that, and he was placed back in the museum about 2 days ago, looking a lot better for his repair work too. So, and the one last thing we're doing, it's a community thing, the museum. We're only just administrators, as you're aware. I suppose the council is much the same, but we try and involve the community as much as we can, and we've got a bit of a thing looking at, I would say, between the museum and the library and the council, kids club or Catlins Club, we're going to call it, and trying to get children to read books and get involved in some of our junior programs. So that's about where we're at. When we opened the building in 2007, we wanted to be self-sustainable. We've nearly made it. COVID's made it's been a bit of a bugbear for us. Just it's knocked a bit, everybody's in that boat, I think. But things are building up again, but just now things are pretty quiet on the home tourist front, and yeah, it's just trying to keep ahead of all these things. But so that's all we're here for today, to thank you very much for your support in the past, and we just hope it can continue. Thank you, Brian, and thank you, members.
Thank you, Levin. Thank you for the positive words. Councillors, questions? Pretty straightforward. Councillor Herbert, followed by Mark.
Just quick, in your financials there, you've got maturity of bank term deposits, and you get about 90,000 a year. You've got a large sum of money invested.
Yeah, I thought you might have asked me that question.
I'm pleased I said it.
Yeah, no, I'm pleased you did, because it's money that we've had bequeathed to us. We're very reluctant to use it for non-capital programs as such. We know we've got or probably will have a major re-roofing the library area, and we don't want to use it in a sinking just for wages and operational, if you get me. That's purely why that's there. We've had to dip in it this year once because our reserves have got a bit low, and we just to pay our own accounts and keep us ticking. So thank you for that.
No, that's sensible answer. Thank you very much. Great.
Councillor Mark.
Oh, I was just going to ask the question, really, you'd be pretty chuffed after the Swamp Hens beat the competition leaders last week.
Pretty chuffed when they beat anyone, but that
You were the one that told me to stay on track, and that's the most obtuse
businessman.
Focus, team, focus. Right, on that point, has that knocked all the questions out of you, team?
Yeah.
Right, I think it is pretty straightforward things, and thank you for coming and helping us with it. Appreciate it. And also, Mike, thank you for the work you also do.
Thanks very much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So the next one, and still on the same book on page 29, Councillor McNabb, welcome back, Hills, welcome back to your chamber, it's good to see you. Yeah, but you're in your old haunts, and we will always welcome you back and acknowledge the service that you give.
Thank you for that. Okay. Mayor Brian Cadogan, councillors. For those who don't know me, and I think a few do, I'm Hilary McNabb, Chair of Catlins Coast Incorporated. With me is Rachel Napier, our Deputy Chair, and I have an apology from our Project Coordinator, Lisa Virginato. We would like to thank you for the opportunity to speak in support of our submission. Now, I'm speaking on the assumption you've all read our submission, and I'd like to highlight some items, and then I'm happy, well, I'm sure Mayor Cadogan will open for questions. Here, partly, these are our, and you've all seen them before, most of you will have, our brochure or visitor guide and purple map. So this coming year will be our 30th edition of our care code and purple map. So the funding we've had from council in the past has been for that, to help with that, and the care code is on the back with the Te Āki promise and guidance around looking after our environment. The care code is also in our visitor guide, but it's also on our Catlins website, and they're great opportunities to get environmental and safety messages to our visitors. We are looking this year to print higher numbers for the coming season due to popular demand, and we're also looking at changing from our shiny paper there to a more eco-friendly paper. I'm sorry I can't hand you all copies of those because that's it. They're all, what we printed last year are all gone for the season. Catlins Coast members, and I can't highlight this enough, invest a huge number of volunteer hours in the review of these resources and along with all the other projects we undertake. An example, the lay-by, and we thank council for your involvement with the lay-by. It is proving to be successful, Mick Cadogan. I'd also like to we do interpretation plans, and if any of you have been to the top of Florence Hill, Catlins Coast were responsible for the interpretation plans and information that's there. We're working with Southland District Council to do plans at Slope Point, along with their new toilet that they're going to be putting in, and we're working on an interpretation for the Hina Hina Bridge. We strongly support the role of the Freedom Camping Ranger. This person has done an excellent job of reducing freedom camping damage and therefore enhancing our environment. I am not going to speak to all the items in our submission. You've all read them. We would like to thank the Clutha District Council for their support in the past and respectfully ask for your consideration for a continuation of that support. Thank you.
Thank you, Hilary. Questions, please, Tony. Go, hands everywhere. Councillor Finch, followed by Herbert, and then someone down here.
Thank you for your submission. I see your total cash at bank is $42,290. Is that put away for a reason?
We employ a project coordinator, Lisa Viginato. So most of that is for her salary going forward, but some of that will be other projects.
And Southland District, what are they giving this year, please?
Southland, and I have to just say, I was prepared for this question because I was expecting that it might come up. Southland have supported us via Venture Southland and then Great South for the last 30 years, despite a large part of the Catlins actually being in the Clutha District. Venture South and Great South, or now Great South, have funded a huge proportion, most of our distribution costs to date through Market South, now Naked Creative. So that's largely funded by Southland District Council. And they continue to support us in other ways with support and advice. So we will be applying to them in their long-term plan, and we will also be applying, we've got the opportunity to apply to some of their other funds as well.
So distribution costs for what and how much?
I haven't got the specific costs, but they store and then distribute around Southland and up to our local information centre as well, the map and brochure.
So when somebody's going past, they drop them off and that?
Well, I do, but no, if they have to come straight to Clutha because they need them, or Owaka, they are couriered at Southland District Council cost.
Thank you.
Councillor Herbert, followed by Lurman.
Thank you. Great to see you again, Hilary. And I'm only going to ask you this question because you know what it's like to sit in these seats. Look, we've had a couple of days of this, and to be fair, we've had quite a few people that want us to shut the door and turn the lights off and just absolutely stick to our core business, or what councils are expected to do as a day to day. You mentioned the Freedom Camping Ranger and your submissions about your tear-off map and your care code. What would you say to those people that want us to stop everything apart from roading Three Waters rubbish?
probably be careful what you wish for. We live in the Catlins. Without the visitors to the Catlins, we wouldn't have some of the things we have to enjoy in our town particularly. We have a good Foursquare, we have shops in our town, and they are largely supported by our visitors to our area. We don't have good cell phone coverage. This helps with safety, with environmental protection. Beyond that, just be careful what you wish for. If we lose all those things, well, what is there to offer?
Thank you. Councillor Lehman.
Thanks, sorry for coming, but actually my questions have been
Thanks, Alison.
Anything else, Tim? If not, round one's gone. So in fairness to Amy and Nolene, because they were, is it okay? You've done one, you can get a breather, you can take in the general ambience of the place.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, Rachel.
everybody. Thanks for your considerations.
No, look, we've had enough of her. Giving me a hard time about the lay-by. Amy and Nolan, kia ora, welcome. Thank you for coming and assisting us. It's just that we jumbled up, you weren't here, but in fairness, so Hills knew what she was doing before she got here. And you'll see Amy's on page 159 of the same book that we're working out of at the moment.
It should just be rolling. Just do it self.
So, kia ora once again, floor's yours.
Good afternoon, and thank you for inviting us here today. For those that don't know me, I'm Amy Morrison, and I am Deputy Chair of the Committee of the Clutha Recreation Centre Incorporated, the governing body of the Cross Recreation Centre. And she probably doesn't need an introduction, but this is Nolene Scott, a wonderful facility manager. Hello to Mayor Cadogan, councillors and executive staff, and everyone else here today. This is my first time coming along to a submission hearing. It's great to be a part of the process, and thank you for your time today. Thank you to all councillors for the work you do behind the scenes. There's a lot of negativity around councils across the country at the moment and a lot of pressure. We recognise your commitment to our district and thank you for your continued leadership and guidance. We're going to share a PowerPoint throughout this presentation to give an overview of how the space in the facility is used. When I think of the Cross Recreation Centre, what comes to my mind is how fortunate we are to have such a facility in the Clutha district. One that took a lot of heart, hard work and dedication by those involved in the early stages, which has carried through to the current committee and staff. And it is able to provide opportunities to a wide range of community groups and individuals of all ages. Using my own family as an example, we currently have 4 generations that are actively using the Cross Recreation Centre, which I think is remarkable and shows the diversity of users. I myself play basketball and I play and coach netball along with my 2 sisters. I'm also president of South Otago Netball, one of the biggest users of the facility. My mum and grandma are regulars at the Thursday morning walking group, and my young nephew and niece have started using the facility, participating in basketball and gymnastics. My parents, Stuart and Marie, were also founding donors of the build, and their name is proudly displayed on the donors board inside. How many facilities would you be able to say can consistently cater for 4 generations? It's pretty impressive and one that we should celebrate and be proud of. Growing up in the Clutha district, I remember the old Drever courts and the freezing cold Saturday mornings playing netball, sweeping frost and shaking salt on the courts to stop players slipping. Nowadays, we are so lucky to be able to play all of our netball indoors, which has given South Otago Netball the opportunity to shift the senior competition to a Friday night. We are currently playing our 4th season on a Friday night, which has seen increased participation in not just players and teams, but spectators as well. This is only one of the sports that has seen increased participation, and we can put that down to the facilities we have and enabling our community to enjoy them. Giving users a safe, user-friendly space is key to our purpose for users to move, improve, connect and engage. We want to be a place that is available and affordable for everyone, no matter their background. In an ever-changing world where health and physical activity is crucial for a healthy lifestyle, we endeavour to remain affordable. With the majority of our costs being compliance and non-negotiables, we rely on the support of our sponsors and grants. The majority of our sponsors have been involved since the beginning, which demonstrates how important we are seen by the wider community. We are so appreciative of the long-term support the council has provided, and we hope this will continue into the foreseeable future. By having a grant on a multi-year basis, it gives us financial certainty, which is very beneficial and enables us to plan for the longer term. As a not-for-profit and a charity, we're grateful that we have access to various grants. However, I'm sure you can appreciate that frequently working towards one-off year-on-year funding can have its difficulties. Thank you again, Your Worship and councillors, for your consideration today and your support of the Cross Recreation Centre. Niles, did you want to add anything?
Just Amy, when you were talking about the walking group at Regular Thursday People, that actually started with one lady come in the door and her GP had given her a green prescription and says you need to walk. So she used to walk her laps and have a cup of tea with Penny and Rachel, two of the staff at the time. And it's now grown to about 35 people. A really strong community that look after not just their being active, but it's a welfare check as well. And if you don't turn up for a couple of weeks, you get a visit. So it's been, we build communities within our community. Thank you.
Another 16 months, I'm coming there.
You're booked in.
Done. And thank you for a positive presentation, Amy and Nolan. Questions, team? Councillor Finch.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your presentation and the great work you do at the facility. Your 35 walkers, do they pay to come in to do their walking? Are they members? What's the
Yes, they do. They just pay a minimal fee of $3 and stay and have a cup of tea.
$3 a day?
$3 each time, yeah.
Lovely, thank you for that.
My apologies if it's here, because I chewed through this one in the middle of the night. And it had fun sort, and then I couldn't, and I read through. Is it additional to last year, or is it just fun sort, same as last year, moving on?
Well, we did present at one of your meetings and we did discuss about increasing it, but we understand the current climate and we'd be appreciative if it was
So that's just the
inflation
same.
adjusted, yeah.
Thank you, sorry.
Yeah,
I
thank
wasn't-
you.
Is that?
Oh, sorry, Your Worship, I just missed the wording. You would like an inflation adjustment?
Yes, please. Yeah.
So that 54,944 has to have inflation on it.
No, that's already, I believe that's been
That is-
adjusted.
That is adjusted.
Yes, I believe so. Thank you.
Thank you for that, and thank you for the consideration. Councillor Harwood.
Thank you, and look, thanks guys for coming along to present again. Hey, so just looking at your costs there, going from 78 to 108 and projected to carry on going. So your court hire, subscriptions or how user pays system, has that increased in the last year or two, or how's that being dealt with?
Yes, we did put the prices up last year. And one of the main feedbacks that come from a lot of our the organisations that utilise it, that they were worried that if we continue to put the prices up year on year, it would be prohibitive for everyone to participate. So we do try and keep it as cost effective as possible, and that many people as possible can enjoy the facility and be involved.
Councillor Finch.
Sorry. How much was it put up last time, please?
10%, if I remember correctly.
Which would equate to what in dollars terms?
Oh, I haven't got those figures here, sorry.
So if you were to add $1 on to everybody that came through the door, how would that affect? Do you think $1 per person on what they pay already would put them over the edge, or do you think that would be fine?
Well, that was the feedback we received. It's hard to know. There is a lot of children that participate in sporting endeavours, which include a sub that needs to be paid. Some clubs try and support as many people as possible by looking for grants and stuff, but it's not something that is taken up readily for people to apply for the sporting chance.
So
Yeah.
roughly, how much would 10% have been that you put it up? If you can just give me a rough idea.
Oh, I couldn't give that figure to you off the top of my head. Sorry, that was last year. Sorry.
So you,
we can provide that if you need that.
yes, that would be great. Thank you.
Certainly.
No, lateral question, it's actually for another submission, but I just thought of something. In the back wall there with the doors, have you got any area there that's got available storage space?
Available storage space, we're a bit thin on storage space.
Yeah.
What are you
I thought
trying
you
to?
were
Yeah, even with our new extension that went on through the COVID period that we thought would be heaps of room is suddenly not so large.
No, it was just another submitter that would have fit in. Further questions, councillor Volwela.
Thanks.
Sorry, councillor, you're speaking.
Oh, I'll try and speak loudly then. That makes a difference. Thanks, ladies, for submitting here and the presentation you've given us. I just noticed in the financials there, your insurance has gone up. Well, it's not quite doubled, close to it, but on the other hand, I see your electricity bill has gone down by a third. Why the reduction there in electricity?
We finally, after many years of applying to funders, got some funding to replace our lighting, and we had installed LED lighting in the sports arena. So that's made a significant reduction from our power, which is really exciting. Insurance, of course, we built on the Jeff Seymour wing. We had to, and every 2 years our insurer asks us for a building facility evaluation. And of course, that really increased the value of the facility, which increases the premiums. We do, we have a subcommittee that looks into our insurances, and we try and keep them as thin as possible by still protecting the community asset that we have. Yeah, insurances, and we're looking at another increase in insurance this year with another review.
Some of the
Thank
times,
you.
Yes, unfortunately.
Any further questions to the team, please, councillors? No? If I thank you very much for positive submission, appreciate it.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Hilary, sorry, but pole position was Mark, so now you're pushed right back to where you were. Welcome, Mark. Really appreciate you coming down and helping with us. Is that with Mark's submission? No, it's not. It's your work. Sorry, they just often is attached supporting document. What page is Mark on? He's on the other one on 187, so we're changing books again. Sorry, Mark, bear with us a bit. Changing guard.
I'll keep on the same page.
I've got a few of my pages stuck together at the moment, I can tell you. There you go. There. My apologies, Mark. Welcome. Good to see you.
Did I say that out loud?
Floor's yours. Sorry.
I won't keep you long. I'm sure you've had a pretty full-on week. Just you would have seen the club submission. Hopefully it all makes sense. Just in general, I sort of think it's a good opportunity to sort of join in with the community, perhaps, a bit more. The committee has changed its view on things a bit in the last 2 or 3 years, so it might be a good time to take advantage of that. And another big thing you probably have seen this time last week, Mr. Hudson has promised quite a bit of money to New Zealand Surf. So as part of that submission I put in for you, I sort of signalled that you may even need some more money later on, but we haven't any confirmation yet. But with $44 million over 4 years that they're giving us, probably I'd stick my neck out and say there's a high chance we won't be asking for any more than what you give. That will be our goal anyway, so hopefully that's of some help. Really, that's all. I'll just make it brief as I can. I know you guys are busy. If there's any questions here, but
Thank you, Mark. Questions, team. Councillor Barron.
Mark, hi, thanks. Hey, has there been any further update? Last time we were talking about engineers and foundations and depths and things.
Yep.
Has that progressed any further?
yes, we have. We've had the geotech reports come back, and the engineer has just verbally sort of said like a riprap type system, polystyrene blocks on a compacted gravel base, sort of.
So you don't have to go deep.
He hasn't officially said it, but verbally sort of indicated that's what he's thinking. Yeah. So, and I guess with having the new building light timber framed and not having the concrete blocks too, makes that foundation
requirements not to be as strong. So yeah, fingers crossed. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Kennedy.
Just a question with, news this week with the government funding, is that for actually the lifesavers to pay for their wages, or can some be used for the building?
This, my understanding is purely CAPEX or capital expenditure. On top of the 9.4 million we're already getting annually, but that's through 73 clubs, and 5 million of that is for operational expenses, and the 2.4 is for buildings. And there's 13 around the country that are in our position as well. So.
Further, Councillor Herbert.
Thank you, and thanks for coming along again, Mark. Just a bit of a pedantic one from me. I see on question 31, you put, I support the combined facility. I'm presuming you're speaking on behalf of your organisation. It probably would have been we.
That's correct.
Yeah. Hey, so we've had a few people in today and yesterday, and a couple of times that the question's been raised, and I don't know the area that well, but about the parking. That it might be better being as two standalone facilities, because you're going to get a lot of parking in one facility. Do you agree with that comment?
No, I don't. No, I mean, clearly, if you get rid of the other toilets, you've got more area for parking. And on a personal scale, not from the club's point of view, but my own personal one. From what I can see, your infrastructure out of the Nuggets can't handle it anymore, and you really need a hub area in Kaka Point, where in the busy times, especially, tourists even get on a little bus, pay their $10 or $20, whatever, and go out and do that. How much money have they spent to get over here? They're not going to worry about $50. You know what I mean?
Thank you. That's great.
Matt, also Councillor Lemon.
Hi, Mark. Thanks for coming. I just can't remember if I've. The option is to put the toilets with the Surf Life Saving Club building, but would the Surf Life Saving Club be equally as happy if they were standalone without the other toilets? So like, what way are you really leaning for?
Essentially, for us, yes, it was really truthful. Either way, they don't care. But the reality is, the more you guys get them behind us, the more community trusts are going to get them behind us, and the more that all our other funders are going to get them behind us. That's the reality of it, I guess, So having the new toilets designed in such a way that it's part of the building, but it's completely separated. There'll be a firewall obviously between it and access outside. And there's been a generation of committee members that have been pretty staunch on not doing. So we're that's thought it. I like to think we're sort of got through that. And sort of want to join in with the community, and it's a community asset too. We've designed it for 99 maximum people, so I mean, it could be used for community use for seminars or weddings or events.
No, thanks. Yeah, thank you. Can I just ask one other question on the guide, please? We've got another submission coming up from Surf Life Saving New Zealand that obviously funding for your lifeguards.
Yep.
And I think I asked the question last season, so I'm going to ask it again. Does that funding have to go directly to Surf Life Saving New Zealand, or because we kind of see if it goes to KP, you might have to pass it on to them, but we see is it going to local with a little bit of control before it gets to this is my personal opinion, to the next step.
Yep.
Is that a possibility, or does it actually have to go directly to Surf Life Saving New Zealand?
It has to go directly to Surf Life Saving New Zealand. It's either black or white, really. But the reality was, and last year, I've got to be honest, they were fantastic. There was 2 young guys that put their hand up locally for the regional guard, and they completed the training. They had priority over everybody else. It's fantastic. They made it very clear, and
Okay, so that's good feedback. So it's still meaning our local lifeguards are getting almost first jibs at the.
Absolutely, absolutely, yeah.
So
Yeah, and you know, with the, I probably said at the meeting last year, in 2 years' time, we're probably we've got recruits coming through that's not going to be so bad, you know, we'll be totally focused on them. It's just this first, last year and this year's the tough one, you know. We managed to scrape another week out, you know, the bones of our ass, excuse my language, but to get patrol going, you know, but it still was short of, you know, fairly substantial time.
thanks, you've kind of helped them. For that.
Mark, competing, well, not even competing interests, just two interests down there with the toilets. So in my own head, there was 4 toilets, I believe, at your facility that would be open to the wider public. Is that correct?
What was on the plan, so if you,
Yeah.
yeah.
So then you're stating that, you're comfortable with that? What about the costs? Because hey, hold on a minute, we're a surf club and we're paying for every visitor and fish and chip shop eater and everything else. What's your long-term sort of thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, let's keep open to communication, you know, Surf New Zealand are really looking after the clubs, for running the place and keeping it going. If we can pay for that, that's great, but if not, then, you know, I think it'll be silly on my behalf not to let you guys buy the toilets and there was some sort of due diligence saying you're going to pay, subsidise some part of the rates or part of the.
And then what about right in the middle of winter, like now, someone goes down random, there'll still be access to them and everything?
Absolutely, yep.
So good function. Sorry about that, it's
No,
just to tie the two
been
together
quite-
in a dim-witted head. Further questions, Tim? No?
Oh, sorry, Your
Yeah,
Worship,
go for
yeah.
it, mate. Steve.
Just, sorry, mate, just following up, we have had submission from the Kaka Point Community Group. And, you know, I'm just trying to put myself in the report writer's position that has to write a report that comes to council on a decision on this matter. And the submission from the Kaka Point Community Group was that their preferred option was, you know, stand alone, do it themselves. And that. So, of course, that's going to mean that, you know, where does staff go with, you know, what would be options as a consequence. So, I suppose the question would be, you know, given that, and understanding that that's what their submission was, does that change in any way, you know, the preferred option or whatever from the Surf Life Saving Club?
My understanding was when we come up with this proposal, council wanted to put it to the community through this LTP, and then we're going to get a good indication through submissions as to how many submissions come back in favour of the club rooms or the separate toilets. I guess that's got to be a judging factor to me, but.
Councillor Ludeman, followed by McTavish.
Sorry, Mark, another question. If we do a combined build, when would you be looking at being able to start that combined build? Because that will be another question that the public want. They want the toilets like yesterday. So when would be a realistic time to expect the new build?
It's been a reasonably challenging journey to this point, as you can be aware. But, you know, all going well, I can't see why late 25 we put the first spade in the ground. Everything's, you know, all our ducks are in a row, ready to press play. So
we'll be looking at the 25-26 financial year for funding. For that project.
If all going well, we don't get another COVID or something like that, you know.
Councillor McTavish.
Yeah, Mark, I just wanted to come back to Councillor Herbert just mentioned it right at the start about how the other submitters were keen on that space. And one of the reasons they said was for parking and getting buses and things, and they thought there was not enough room around the surf club itself. But you're suggesting that there's plenty of room with the toilets gone. So, yeah. So you see that as an issue, you see space as an issue on that foreshore south? Or do we need more space there?
It'd be lovely to have more space, but reality is there is no more, is there, between the
Without the toilet, the toilet.
apart from the toilets, yes, of course, yeah. So if they were, I believe there's room to do something along those lines, whether you're having like a pick-up, drop-off area perhaps, or extra parking,
Yeah, because I'm thinking, you think it should be something that we should consider as part of the location of the toilets either in the club or?
Yes.
Yeah.
Councillor Phelps, followed by Payne, followed by Wheeler.
Thanks, Mark, for coming in. Can I just ask a question with your plan here? Is that the same footprint or is it bigger? Like, are you going the same size as what you are now, extending the toilets?
For this, to accommodate the new public toilets, we've had to basically double that. We cut the building in half, stretched it open, and the extra piece we've got in that middle is only half for the toilet. So there's another half in there as well that we've got to make our building bigger, i.e. more cost to us as well.
Yeah, I'm just sort of struggling a wee bit because you're saying there's going to be more room without the toilets gone. So if you're making your building bigger, you're taking up more room as well. So,
you'll be aware that I built them IRB shed beside the existing club rooms at the moment, and that's on the building. Like if I'm looking behind the surf club, looking out to the sea, there's a new building, the shed. The footprint of the new building on that right-hand side or the southern end stays where it is. The extension goes the other way. We go back towards the shop. Does that make sense?
thank you.
Councillor Payne, followed
Thanks,
by
Your Worship. Yeah, welcome again, Mark. I'm just thinking, have you pitched your idea to the Karka Point Community Group?
Yeah, on a number of occasions. Yep. I've been to the community group meetings. I've spoken to them. Whatever. And there was another meeting we had with can't remember the name of the nugget concerning the nuggets and that too. There was a number of community groups there as well. Members were there, and I presented that as well. So, yeah.
And the response was?
Nobody threw anything at me.
I just wonder whether you should go back.
I'm happy to go back if they want to, but
could be a good idea to have a talk.
Yep. At the end of the day, we've all got to get along with each other.
Councillor Wheeler.
Thanks, Your Worship. Just looking, I've just brought the map up, the photo up, aerial of the foreshore there, basically.
Yep.
So your IRB storage shed is just to the south.
That's right.
That will be incorporated into the new building, or will that stay as a separate?
It stays a separate unit. Yep. That was built in COVID time, basically. Yeah.
Right. And when people are accessing the beach at the township itself, do they generally accessing it around the Surf Life Saving Club area?
We're trying to deter that for health and safety reasons. We try to generally get them down towards that halfway between the club rooms and the public toilets. There's a couple of tracks down there, and there is a ramp on the shop end on the north side of the club.
Right, so that's perhaps something that should be considered as well, where the best place for accessing the beach and people coming up wanting to use a changing shed and toilets if they're on the beach then too.
There's a track reasonably near it. By all means, we're open to use on. Historically, we've just been conscious of, we've got some expensive gear and hazardous substances and things, and we just don't want Joe public sort of hanging around too much between the shed and the club room, if that makes sense.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
And when people are using actually swimming or surfing or whatever, are they generally concentrated in a fairly small area?
Yep.
In the region and the sort of front of the
Club Rooms.
circle.
Yep, that's right, yeah, they keep the, while it's a very, reasonably safe beach, they tend to keep the flags reasonably close together just to keep an eye on everybody, especially on the busy days.
Okay, team, how's that going for questions? Thank you very much, Mark. Appreciate your support and input as always. So cheers for that.
Thanks very much for your time.
Okay, team, now despite the jibes that you gave me this morning on my inadequacies as a chair, I'm an hour ahead of time today. Unless Hillary decides she's going to do a big long speech. So it's all down to Hillary whether my magnificent chairmanship gets you here within an hour. And Hills is on, what page are you on?
Separate folder, you wish. Remember, was that missed?
So separate folder.
Yes.
It's a
I have
separate
it rung
item,
up.
separate
We'll
item.
have it in, would we?
Yeah.
Anyway.
No, who hasn't seen it like me?
Email. Yeah, yeah.
Paper, John?
Well, there's your first.
That's all right. I'll listen intently to Hillary. I'll hang off every word as always.
Except
The
that
show
I'm
is
assuming
submitted.
you've read it.
I'll catch up with it.
All right, thank you. This time, you do know who I am now, and I'm here this time as Secretary of Ōwaka Going Forward and a working group member of the Ōwaka Walking and Cycling Trail. I'd like to pass on an apology from Marion Leslie, Chair of Ōwaka Going Forward, and our project manager, Richard Latter, who unfortunately is in China. I'm speaking again on the assumption that you've all read the submission and seen the photos of our progress to date with the trail. Just a few bullet points. Locals and visitors alike are constantly asking for short bike walk trails close to the township of Ōwaka, as highlighted in our Place Catlins plan and the Rob McIntyre's Clutha Destination Strategies. We're very fortunate to have Richard Latter driving the project. Any project that's going to get anywhere needs somebody passionate at the top driving it, and Richard is that. Richard grew up in our area as a passionate cyclist and wanted to give something back to the community he grew up in, so hence him leading this. The trail will create a loop from Ōwaka to Punawea and return, but is also a good short walk/ride. It has community support, and I cannot emphasise enough the huge number of volunteer hours that have already gone into this project. So this massive, Richard particularly has put massive amounts of hours into this project. We're very grateful to the landowners for their support. They've been great to work with, and without that support, none of this would have happened. So I'd just like to say OGF appreciate the initial support for the project from CDC, and we are asking for continued support for a first in the Catlins. So this will be the first cycle trail, walk trail that we've got in the Catlins. So if anybody knows the area, it goes from the Hina Hina Bridge through to the Punawea Reserve, which currently there is a dock walk through the reserve. So people can choose to ride from Hina Hina Bridge to the reserve, walk through the reserve, as DOC don't allow cycling through that track, and then they can cycle back through from Punawea, either round the River Road to Dutton's Bridge and back to Ōwaka that way, or from the landing bridge at the golf club straight back to the township. So there are plans for further extensions. We've also had meetings with track designers that did the Waihola Trail, and we have some planned costings to do a boardwalk round what we call Hungerford Point, but at the moment that is well and truly price prohibitive. So that's directly across from the Hina Hina, the yacht club. It is a salt marsh reserve high on the DOC radar. So anyway, that's where we're at, and I hope you've seen all the progress photos. John just came in today to say that the track length is 2.16 kilometres from the bridge to the reserve. And if anybody wants to go from the Hina Hina Bridge to the motor camp and return, it's 6 kilometres. So it's a fantastic bit of track along the edge of the estuary, some of it on council Esplanade Strip, most of it on private property. It then goes into a nice totara and kamahi patch of established totara, but there's also a lot of regenerating totara in there. That has already been fenced off with funding that's available. Those photos didn't have photos of that at that time. So it's really starting to take shape, and I think it will be very much appreciated by both the community and the visitors. Also, just as I don't know how many of you have seen the cycle brochure, Richard Ladder was behind that as well, along with Clutha Development. So our care code is also in that. But that is highlighting areas where you can cycle through the Catlins on our roads and telling you what to expect as well. So yeah, Richard's been pretty involved in this whole thing. So it's me.
Thank you. Questions for Hilary, please. Councillor Finch. Councillor
Thank you.
Nolan, a second.
Thank you again. You're going to continue to submit applications to other entities.
Yes.
Have you done that yet?
Yes, there is one in with the Otago Community Trust currently.
And they're, having spoken to them, what is their outlook on that?
Reasonably favourable. The issue we've got is that Owaka going forward is only a recently registered charity. So we have had funding from lotteries, which we've used with where we've got to today. And they don't fund the whole project when you're a newly registered charity. So we will be going wherever we can.
So did they give you an indication?
Who, Otago Community Trust?
Yes.
Yes, it sounded like it would be quite favourable, but we should know by the end of June.
Thank you.
Councillor Boyle.
Thanks. Sorry, I just missed the length of that track. Did you say 2 point?
From the Hina Hina Bridge to the Punawea Reserve is 2.16 kilometres, one way.
Councillor Payne.
Thanks, Your Worship. Hilary, you talked about the boardwalk. Now, was that to be part of the track or not?
Down at some
in the
point,
future?
ideal world,
So-
but yeah,
So that's been parked, not shelved?
parked, not shelved.
Right.
But it will, I mean, I think it's in excess of $1 million, so it's well and truly parked at the moment.
Right.
Probably our next step, once we get this bit up and running, would be to come back the other way from the Hina Hina Bridge back around Cruz Corner. And again, if you know the area, that bit of road is,
So you could push a bike through it for 2K?
Yeah.
Awfully.
No, the track itself is 2 Ks.
Yeah.
Then you would push a bike through the bit of the reserve to Punawea.
I got it.
At this stage. Yeah. Unfortunately, we've talked to Doc, but that's where it's at.
Good. I mean, it's not very far.
And we've got, like I said, you've got coastal, you're right on the edge of the estuary, then you go into the totara, and then you're into native bush. So it's a really nice track.
Councillor Phelps.
Hilary, you may have mentioned, but I just want to clarify, we got permission from the landowners, or is it council land, or?
There is a mixture of all, so we have got to go through an Esplanade, right to occupy, licence to occupy process. We're working with Daryl from Terramark on all those things. We've also got currently MOUs with the landowners that will then be signed, and once we've got the track fully formed, it will be easements on their titles, which we already have an understanding with them.
So most of them are favourable?
The two of the landowners, very much so, yes. Yes, we've had a lot of support from both of them, so it's been really positive.
Hello. Projects like these need community support, they need community buy-in. Over the last couple of days, quite rightly, there's angst out there. And if I was to say, well, certainly one of the strong areas where the angst is coming from is down your way. Would you say you have the majority of people behind your project?
Well, Owaka going forward are a representative group. They are very positive. I totally understand where they're coming from, and I don't think we're asking for big lots of money. We are doing a lot voluntarily, and a whole lot voluntarily, and we're also going to other funders.
Very cool. Any more, team? 5 minutes past 4, 55 minutes ahead of, hold on, I'm going to do something. Thank you, Hilary, for that presentation. And as an ex-councillor and also to Rachel Do, I presume we'll be having a can of Coke and you're more than welcome. The recommendation now that the LTP hearing is adjourned at 4:05 PM and will be reconvened at 1 PM on Tuesday, 28th of May. Can I have someone move that, please? Move Councillor Payne, seconded Councillor Mackie. All those in favour? Aye. Those against? Thanks.